Very good results.
Let's talk about executive futures. If you become the mayor of the District of Columbia, given the current job situation, especially in the poorer wards of the city, what would you do about it?
Well, first of all, I am the only one who's put a plan out there. We have epidemic unemployment rates, 10.4% in the District of Columbia overall, 19% in Ward 7, 30% in Ward 8. I have advanced a plan. I invite people to go to my website to look at it. It talks about an economic development strategy and then a workforce development strategy that would begin to recognize that we have opportunities in healthcare, we have opportunities in green technology, we have opportunities in early childhood education to begin to move this city beyond just being a government town and being based on tourism and hospitality. You know, when the mayor talks about going back to the 90s, one of the things that frankly takes us back to the 90s is the cronyism that has been evident in this administration. $82 million in contracts haven't been awarded, quote unquote, awarded to his fraternity brothers. An investigation into that by a special counsel that has been stymied by this administration and this attorney general. Special counsel appointed. Some of these investigations can go on for years. Settlements take years. This one has moved along quite rapidly. But yet this administration entered into a settlement with these folks. Security costs waived, you know, for some organizations and not for others. The vetoing of a bill that would prohibit vote buying in the District of Columbia. Again, mismanagement of the Summer Youth Employment Program. I think, you know, beyond the question of personality, this is what troubles a lot of people in the District of Columbia, and that is the cronyism and the mismanagement in this administration that has been evident in so many different ways.
Jim in Washington, D.C., you're on the air. Jim, go ahead, please.
Yes, following up on that, this is my question beforehand. Why would the mayor veto the bill that would have made it a crime to pay people to vote? It seems to me that's a reasonable law, and I think it may be federal law. And I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you.
Mayor Fenty?
So the city council voted on a change in elections laws for and where 7 of the people on the city council are up for election in the very election that they were changing. 2 of the council members, to give them credit, recused themselves for the vote. The whole definition in the council's rules says you are not to vote on legislation that could personally benefit you. All of those other 5 candidates, including my opponent, should have recused themselves from the vote or should have made it prospective to not apply to this particular election. One other thing, there were amendments made on the dais of the council that were not discussed in any public hearing. You absolutely should not change an elections law to affect an election that you're in, but you certainly shouldn't do it when you make an amendment on the dais of the council that hasn't gone through any type of public vetting. This caller has a great point, but why couldn't that point be brought up in a public hearing and debated?
Chairman Gray, it has been reported that the alleged purpose of that bill was specifically to stop the mayor's supporters from having go-go concerts where young people were given free tickets and encouraged to vote. Is that true?
That is absolutely not true. And frankly, the mayor's answer was a process answer, not a substantive one. Frankly, you can make the argument that not doing anything further would benefit the incumbents because they would have an advantage in an election coming up. This was a good government bill that was passed by the Council of the District of Columbia. It is very straightforward. It mirrors federal law. It had no specific, constituency, no specific issue that was targeted. It was simply an effort to try to safeguard against the potential abuse and fraud that could occur. We are a city now that has introduced several new approaches to voting. First of all, early voting, which begins on August 30th this year. Same-day registration and the use of new mechanisms in order to vote. Many jurisdictions have done one or the other of those things. No jurisdiction in America has done all 3 at the same time.
And we're going to be having the executive director of the Board of Elections on pretty soon to explain to our listeners exactly.
Well, this was a bill. This was a bill to safeguard against that. It was a good government bill, and I'd like to hear why it wasn't considered a good government bill.
Councilmember of Ward 6 said he was very disappointed in the city council taking a vote on that bill.
I want to